Hi, I'm Rebecca from Psych Tips, and today I'm going to be talking about first date anxiety. Specifically, tips to help you go to first dates feeling slightly calmer than you may have done without watching this video. So, dating and anxiety go hand in hand. They're really common, especially if you're invested in the outcome of the date, i.e. if you want it to go well, if you think you're going to be really keen on this person, or if you are keen on this person, then chances are you're going to be more anxious because you're more concerned about the outcome. So what can you do to try and manage your anxiety so you can be as confident as possible on the date? Tip number 1. Go to the date knowing what you're bringing to the party. By that, I mean remind yourself of all the good points you've got, like bits of your personality that might be really fun, bits of your history that might be quite interesting. Think about what your friends would say if you were, asking them to introduce you. Think about what your family may say. Recognise that you are bringing a significant amount of interest to the party. Don't go in there thinking, oh, I've got nothing to take with me, I've got nothing to talk about, I've got nothing interesting about me. You do. And if you're feeling like you don't, dig deep to think about the bits of you that are interesting, the bits of you that are fun, and perhaps think about the times where you've been really engaged in a situation where you've had lots of fun at a party or at a dinner somewhere, and where people are able to think, gosh, they've got something really interesting about them. Remind yourself of those moments. If you really can't think of anything like that, that's fine. Just think about how complex a human you are, how many different facets there are to your personality, and how you've got a story to bring. Don't go into a date thinking, I don't have anything to bring to this party. You do. And if you can't access what you're bringing to the table at the first date, dig deep. Ask people who are your friends, ask people who are your family, what it is that makes them love, like, enjoy your personality and being around you, and hold that in mind when you're turning up to your first date. Tip number 2. Remind yourself that the person you're going on a date with is a human. I know it sounds obvious, obviously they're a human, but actually if you're feeling anxious, what you're really likely to do is elevate the person you're going on a date with to a sort of higher level than they actually need to be. The reality is they're human, they're going to be fallible, they're going to perhaps have some first date anxiety too, they might have a bit of an inferiority complex when it comes to certain topics of conversation. They're going to be nervous. Well, chances are they're going to be nervous. It's unlikely they're not. And if you can remember that you're two humans going out to meet, presumably with an intention of getting on, then it takes the pressure off you a bit of you thinking, oh, I've got to really impress this person, they're going to be amazing. Even if you really like someone, even if you think that they're really amazing, the chances are they're going to have their flaws as well. And that's okay, that's what makes us human. But it's important to remember that so you don't put them on a pedestal that's far higher than they need to be. Remember that they're human. Tip number 3 is carry yourself in a confident way. Shoulders back, head high. There is a lot of research that says that the way we carry ourselves in a situation actually has a huge influence on how we behave in events following the way we've entered a situation. So if you're waiting to meet someone on a date and, maybe your typical stance is to wait outside until they come along, maybe actually you can walk into the venue that you're going to meet them in. You can hold your shoulders low, hold your head high, and walk into the venue with purpose. Sit down with confidence. Owning your space a little bit, owning how you carry yourself. It gives you that air of confidence. And even if you're not feeling particularly confident, you're going to behave as if you're more confident if you're carrying yourself in a more confident way. So don't underestimate the importance of walking with some kind of intention, walking with the intention of, I'm going into this venue because we've got a table reservation. I'm going into this venue because I'm going to sit at the bar and wait for the person I'm going to go on a date with. And I'm going to feel confident enough to order a drink, to order a coffee, to, sit and just, enjoy the environment I'm in. instead of waiting for the person, feeling a bit embarrassed and waiting for them to give me the lead to go in. Okay, so shoulders down, head held high, and walk with purpose. The way you carry yourself will make you feel better if you do it in a confident way. Tip number 4. Have an idea of what you want to know about the person. I don't mean some great long interview list of everything you need to know about their history and what they've done in every sort of moment of the year since they were born. But maybe there are some things that are showstoppers for you. Maybe there are some things that are deal breakers for you. Maybe you want to know that the person you're going on a date with has plans to, I don't know, stay in the same country that you're on a date with. Maybe you want to know that someone wants children. Maybe you want to know that they're actually looking for a serious relationship. They're all valid things to want to know. And it's important to have an idea of the information you want to leave the date with. Now, if you've had loads of text chat or phone calls before the date, maybe you know that already. So maybe there are some more specific things you want to know about. And if you don't know them particularly well, really hold in mind the stuff that you need to walk away with in order to make an informed decision about whether you want to see them again. What having a few questions that you want answered also means is that you can guide the conversation a little bit. Now, if you've got someone who just talks at you, I mean, if you're a bit anxious, that can be a relief, can't it? Because you think, well, I don't need to do any of the hard work. But actually it's not ideal because you want to be able to control the situation a bit, guide it in the direction you want to. So have an idea of the questions you want answered and get in there, be explicit and say, I'd love to know more about, I don't know, the job you currently do, or I'd love to know more about how you spend time in the weekends, or I'm really keen to understand if you've got a relationship with your family and what that's like. Because maybe, I don't know, family relationships is really important to you. So the benefits are twofold. One is that you get a clearer picture of, is this someone you want to go on a second date with? And do you want to pursue a potential relationship with them? But two is you direct the conversation a little bit. And that's particularly useful if you've got someone who talks non-stop, or actually if there are silences and you want to G the conversation along a little. So don't go in with really rigid interview questions because that's unnatural, but just have a loose idea before you go in of the stuff you'd like to know a little more of. Because remember, dating's about making informed decisions about whether you want to pursue something with that person. And in order to make that informed decision, you need to have information. Know the information you want answered. And tip number 5 is don't take all the responsibility for the date. By that, I mean, if you've presumably agreed to a time and a location or what you're going to do, then don't take all the responsibility for the conversation that happens in that date. If you're feeling a little bit anxious, the behaviour that's associated with anxiety is taking too much responsibility for the conversation. So that might mean you feeling as if it's all your responsibility to make sure there are no awkward silences, to make sure there's a continuity in the conversation, to make sure that there's never a bit where you feel a bit, oh, this isn't going particularly well. But the reality is there are 2 of you on that date. And that means there's a 50-50 responsibility in keeping the conversation going. If there's a bit of an awkward silence, well, sure, it's in part your responsibility to patch that over a little, and in part it's the other person's responsibility. And don't be catastrophic if there's an awkward silence. That's fine too. It's perfectly fine. Just have a pause and a bit of reflection. But if the conversation isn't going particularly well, don't blame yourself. The other person is to blame too, if there's any blame that actually exists. There are 2 people in this situation, but just hold in your mind, if you are a bit anxious, you are far more likely to take too much responsibility for the date going well. It's also not your responsibility to make sure that the other person has loads and loads of fun. It's both your responsibilities. Ultimately, people should be going to a date thinking, well, I want to enjoy the conversation, want to have some fun, and I want to go away with an idea of if I want to pursue this or not. And that isn't a one-sided operation. That takes 2 people. So go in there knowing that you have a 50% responsibility for a good date with good conversation, not a 100% responsibility. And if the conversation dries up or if it gets a bit awkward, that's fine. The art is just moving on from that, not thinking, oh, this is terrible and now the date's doomed. It's just thinking, That was just a bit of a blip in the conversation and we can carry on again. So don't worry if there are little dips or awkward moments. That's all part and parcel of going on a date and meeting someone new. So if you've really enjoyed today's tips and you'd like to know more about how psychology can help in your day-to-day life or indeed your dating life, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I guarantee there will be more tips for you to live a psychologically healthier life.